In Iowa, New Hampshire, the race is very, very
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. The big lie
that the greed and recklessness and illegal behavior of Wall Street, where
who have been killed by police officers, there needs to be a concerted effort.
for President of the United States.
I'm living with the gimmick and wins from beginning to end. No gimmick if I rap it, dude, I live it then. And you can't do it, so ain't no need for mimicking. I'm not innocent, I'm on a mission, so let me finish it. Matter of time before they summon the army in. I'm probably on the FBI's most wanted list. I'm probably gonna end up hung like an ornament. I'm on a life mission to abolish all the government.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows user modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to bipcot.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network, and theseedsofliberty.com and theconsciousresistance.com. So today I have Eric July, who is a returning guest. We had him on last time. Was it for another video? Oh yeah, the Ripper rap, ANCAP rap one. We talking about that, and he came out with his latest music video called Statism. That he did it with Craig Mabbitt, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
And it's really making waves. I think it came out like April 20th, so it's like a couple of weeks, like a week and a half ago, something like that. And it's I think Loudwire, is it loudwire.com? Mm-hmm. That it's now hit either tied for first, which is really, really awesome. Very exciting for the message that he's putting out. And it's really, it's not just about, hate the state, and F the police, but it's, it's got some logic, some explanation, some reasoning behind it, which is sorely needed, So I think you do a great job with that. So we're going to talk about that. And first, just to mention, so he's a writer on Liberty Hangout, Libertarian Republic, and Being Libertarian Facebook pages. So that's libertyhangout.org, thelibertarianrepublic.com, and beinglibertarian.com. So we'll get into that and maybe some of his recommendations for economics books, because he's big into economics, as many of anarchists and volunteers are. We tend to have this annoying interest in how do people act without being forced, right? How do people? It's an annoying interest that we have.
Yeah, that's what connects us all.
We gotta be annoying like that,
right?
But Eric, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I saw that video. I'm like, damn it, I got to get this guy in again. I got to help him spread that, because it's spreading already, which is really awesome to see. But yeah, so I'll do my best to give it some more exposure. So I guess just go into a little bit about the music video, because I guess how it came to be, the song, and and what's going on with it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is our second single off our debut album. Backwards, we've only been a band for a year, but it's a lot of thought that's going into really making this, I guess, become a band. We've all left signed bands, touring acts, and things like that, and we formed this band with the intentions of really, really doing something that we felt was special. And we got together. We spent a year basically building up our fan base. And we've done a great job doing that. Appreciate all the support in that. But we didn't really hit hard as what we wanted to talk about, I guess, what was going to be our overall theme. And that's when, we came out with our third single, because we dropped the first two singles that aren't even on the album. But just to let people know kind of what we're bringing to the table. And our third single was Utopias Don't Exist. And that was our first kind of track that acknowledged the political aspect of our band. And Statism was the next track. And, we had me and the other vocalist, Alex, and, we were both libertarians. And we was like, we were on to something where utopias don't exist. And we kind of jabbed at them, gave them a little taste of where we're at. Now we're about to just start throwing straight haymakers. So we wanted our first track to be like, is probably the biggest swing that we could get. In which we just wanted to more generically speak about statism in general, why we are against it, what it's about. So we recorded the track, and we wanted the visual. We already had the visual in mind. We got it with our folks over there at Anarchy Ball, and we got those hoodies made. And what you see, they're all representing different schools of anarchy. Me being the prominent center of attention, obviously with the black and yellow, because I am an ANCAP, and and the other being we had Algorithm being represented as well. So we just wanted to represent all those schools of thoughts, or schools of, I guess, anarchism, so to speak. And we wanted to more so talk about statism in general. And we are under a rebellion noise. We're kind of co-managed by them. That's a little co-management company. And they also manage Escape the Fate. And we kind of molded that part of the track that features Craig Mabbitt. We put it there specifically for him. And when he heard it, man, he was just like, I'm on it, man. Like, he wasn't even up for debate. He was like, I'm on it. It was great to have somebody of that stature, somebody that's been that successful in a music game, to just want to be a part of it. And he's and it's not one of those features. You know, guys go get features from people, and you know they pay them to do a feature, and that's it. You know, whatever, they're on a song. But this was different. This was like, you know, Craig really, he believed in us as a band, and he's reiterated that to me several times. And how he likes the fact that I have a voice, and I have this voice. He feels like this is refreshing to the game and our genre. And he acknowledges that, and so it's cool, and he wants to be a part of that. So when we talk about what we're doing at Loudwire, he wants to share that stuff out as well, because he wants to get out. He genuinely, this isn't just a feature that he was just on. You know, he genuinely likes the track, and he loves what we're doing. So yeah, that's pretty much how this whole deal came to be. And that was our first Haymaker. We'll start going into different kinds of songs. Our debut album is set to be released. We're recording it starting May, obviously, so we're starting to record that, hopefully to get it released by the end of the summer. And you'll see us talk about a lot of different things, and we won't just be talking about government. People that know me as a writer, know me in my past bands, I talk about a lot of different social issues and things like that. It won't just be economics, it won't just be government, but that's our theme. We want people to know we are liberty-minded, we are liberty-oriented, and though a lot of people in our genre aren't, we're going to put it on our back, and we're going to try to bring it to light and infiltrate the arts.
Awesome. Yeah. Like, I think we probably mentioned in the last time we talked about how, you know, a lot of rappers, or I guess hip hop in general, has the theme of being anti-state and anti-authority, but it's not really from an intellectual or moral position. It's just more like an edgy teenager, rebellious, I don't want to do what you're telling me to do kind of position,
Right.
which is fine too. It's just that it's nice to have the depth of speaking from a position of economics and morality, and it just kind of removes the emotion. It's not just anger, you know. It's like there's a reason. There's real reasons why we are anti-state. So I really appreciate how you guys focus on that, and you know, especially in this video.
Absolutely, man. That's what we want to do. We want to break it down in that regards, because there's a lot of people, definitely in our genre, you know, that make these songs that they claim to be anti-government, but it is, like you said, it's just one of those kind of like edgy, you know, teenagers. I don't want to do what you say, you know, and that's easy. That's very easy. Yeah. I can make a song that says "screw the cops."
Right.
You know, I can make a song that says war is immoral. That's easy. You know, that's easy. That's just too easy. Right. But you know, why is this the case? Nobody's making songs about why this is the case. What is the individuals? How are they contributing to this? You know, by because a lot of these guys that claim to be anti-state, they go turn around. Definitely musicians. You see a lot of those guys and entertainers went endorse people like Bernie Sanders, who openly wants to expand government. Right. You know, in pretty much every spot through our lives. So again, that's diametrically opposed to actually fixing the solutions or coming up with solutions to the issues that some of these guys like to talk about, which is the war efforts, which is the police brutality, I guess, so to speak. So those things are what you get when you get statism. You know, that's exactly what you get. And a lot of I always like to talk about the individual. And I think definitely Austrian economists like they focused on that, you know, the human aspect. And that's what I think is so cool, though I do love to read people of the Chicago thought. But I love how Austrians, you know, they always talk about, you know, human interaction and how, you know, humans are geared to, you know, want to seek this sort of outcome. I think that's very, very cool to me. And I like to focus on individual, like anarchism and individualism in general. So I like to always bring it back to, it's easier for me to point the finger and say, well, the state's doing this, the government's doing this. But then I have to start talking about, all right, well, how do we get to this point? What has the individual done to contribute to this? What can I do to better this situation? And when I start looking at it like that, we start looking at it like, well, a lot of people that are advocating for big government, this is what big government gets you. But we don't hear those songs talking about that. Because these guys turn around and they will go support government expanding politicians who have absolutely no intentions on shrinking the state, abolishing the state of any sort. So we want to break it down from an intellectual perspective, but also I've recognized, and I think we talked about this on the last show, how entertainment, we haven't really infiltrated that. We have a lot of intellectuals who I can send to, but music is one of those things that's universal. And everybody listens to music, for the most part, everybody listens to music. And that's just a way, and I feel like that's my calling, is to break it down for people from a musical level. And yes, I go out there and I do public speaking and I may do videos and stuff like that, but I try to not, use jargon and things like that, even though that's predominantly most of the stuff I read through. My thing is I want to break it down for just a common average person who doesn't know anything about it, break it down for them so they can, know what it is. Because I think about people like me who grew up, in a situation that I did, and I didn't even know what libertarianism was until I hit college. You know what I mean? And if it had not been for guys that was breaking it down to me, if somebody had initially just handed me a Murray Rothbard book right off the bat, I probably wouldn't have took it seriously. In all honesty, I probably wouldn't. It's not to knock him, because I love Murray. Now. But again, it was he's just again, we have those intellectuals and they have their place. But I do feel like my calling is to just break it down, put it in music, because people may not listen to that stuff when you put it in a book, but they may listen to it behind a beat of some sort, or they may not listen to it when you're very, very intellectual with it, but they may listen to it if you just dumb it down for just like the common man and how he would speak. And I really do feel like that's my goal, and I try to implement that in my band.
And I think you can't dumb it down more than the 2 words on your shirt.
Yeah, right.
That's as simple as it gets.
Right, there you go. Right there. But that's what it's about. I mean, stuff like that. Like if I could write a book that talks about how socialism is immoral on every aspect, it doesn't work, why it will never work. Right. But I wear a shirt like this, somebody's gonna ask me about it. Every time I wear a shirt like this, somebody's always asks me about it. Why do you feel that way? What does that mean? I was at what were we at? Papados? No, it was the ranch. It was the ranch. I was out there maybe 2 weeks ago, and I had a shirt that said, I believe, like, it had a black and yellow flag and it said non-aggression on it, and it said non-aggression and something else, and like, I want to say maybe 3 people while I was eating walked by and say, "Hey man, cool shirt." The waiters were saying, "Hey, cool shirt." Now I went outside, swear to God, I mean, guys strike me down if I'm lying, but I went outside and a guy, like, he legit asked me about it. Like, what does that mean? And that gave me the opportunity. And even I was out actually there with some of my colleagues of mine. Yeah. And they don't even know what that stuff is. And they were asking me about it, and it gave me an opportunity to explain it. So it's little stuff that we could do that will either at least just trigger that kind of conversation in which we can plant that seed. And maybe they'll start, looking into it. That's my thing. If you see something, even if you don't talk to me, so you see this and say socialism sucks. Why does it suck? Let me go look it up. You know what I mean? Like, for real, like that's stuff that happens. And if I can, go through a day and I change, one person's, or not even change their mind, if I challenge one person to at least question something or want to look it up, I feel like that's a victory for me.
Yeah, it's like planting little seeds of interest in people's minds, and maybe they won't attend to it, or it won't take root immediately, but maybe sometime down the road something else will trigger that, and then it'll take root. And like, I saw that guy. What was that? What was on his shirt? Let me check that out. Socialism. Right. Why does it suck? Right? And it's really. And I think the same thing is with memes. Right? Very, very quick way to get across an idea. Without much explanation. And like you were saying, like, there are thick, heavy intellectual books, and they're good for fleshing out these ideas. But if we can't explain these things to the common person, not to the to the master's degree economist, not to that guy, but to the regular man, if you can't explain it, then they're of course they're going to go to the politicians because they look like they have the charisma and they have the they're just a magnet for these kinds of people, right? I think people want to seek they seek answers to their problems, right? Like everybody, we all like have problems in our life, and everybody, you want to find the answers, right? And for a lot of people, unfortunately, politicians are the answer. They say free stuff. Okay, you know what? Free stuff. That sounds good. Free college.
Right.
Free college. That sounds like a good idea. What's wrong? What could be wrong with free college? How can you be against free college? What kind of a immoral idiot are you?
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, that's such a perfect way to put it. I mean, that's why people are so attracted to these guys, because they can get on. Like Bernie Sanders, he says half the time he doesn't even have to explain what he's saying, but he'll go on stage and he'll say the 1%, these people are doing this to these people. That's why you got to vote me in office, and I'll fix the problem by expanding. And it's so simple, but for the person who doesn't really it's so common that he doesn't really know, he can't really see through that. That type of stuff is very, very attractive. It is why, and I know Thomas Sowell, he does a great job in mentioning this, and how, even from a academic standpoint, how leftists and people that are government expanders have infiltrated that along with entertainment, and these are these areas, not necessarily in academia, but definitely in entertainment, where it's so simple. Everybody loves music. Everybody loves culture, movies and stuff like that. So if somebody that's doing a movie is a hardcore leftist, and they're a hardcore leftist and they make this music, people are going to be attracted to that type of stuff, and they're going to be attracted to that line. An old person that made this song that's talking about this is a socialist, or they're a leftist, or maybe I should be. And that's how the left did a great job. I mean, I dislike the idea, but I can't knock them, because they did a great job in infiltrating those types of mediums, and that's why they seemingly dominate the youth. In a lot of perspectives, like those guys are usually hardcore. They're not even conservative. They're hardcore leftist, government expanding leftists for the most part. These youngsters, and that's why, because the left did a great job of infiltrating arts and culture. I mean, you had those. Well, I hate to call them intellectuals, but you had the Paul Krugmans and the Robert Reichs of the world.
You're stretching the word there with Paul Krugman.
Yeah,
you're stretching it.
I hate to say that. But they had those guys, and I guess you can call those intellectuals. But on top of that, they had the entertainers, they had the musicians, they had the movie stars, and all of that. So I feel like if we can infiltrate that, we already have on lock. We have the intellectuals, but if we can infiltrate the culture, we can infiltrate other deals such as entertainment. I feel like there will be a trendy effect and a snowball effect, and then we'll start having more volunteers. We'll start having more ANCAP, start having more people that are at least challenging authority, but understand why it's an illegitimate entity.
Yeah, when you said that it's all about the individual, that's such a good point. I always try to bring it back to that, because so often people get lost in collectivizing people. It's the rich people, it's the black people, it's the Hispanic people, it's the Muslim people, it's those people that are the problem, right? And it's such a dangerous thing, because the way I tell people, well, first of all, the forest is nothing without the trees, right? So if you completely ignore the individual, you're setting yourself up for devastation, for disaster. And if it's bad for the individual, it is by definition bad for the group, right? Always. You can never discount the individual, right? No action really is warrants or punishing the individual, of course, unless the individual did something to deserve that, right, with the victim. But that's one thing that every politician tries to convey is that for my plan to work, forget about the individual for a moment, okay? Just do this thing and things will work out. Forget about the individual. It's like Mao said that, Hitler said that, Hillary says that. So many of them say that, and it's like the oldest trick in the book, yet it's still effective.
Man, that is so. It's a great way to put it. It is the oldest trick in the book. It's something that has been used time and time and time again. Where again, like you said, Hitler did it, Zedong did it, Pol Pot did it, Stalin did it. All of these people that killed. I mean, I think between those guys, we're talking of hundreds of millions of people, of their own people. On top of that. At least within their country is what I mean when I'm saying by their own people. Obviously, they didn't own them, but it's crazy how the politicians and the people that are government officials, they do that so much, and they point to, well, they are the issue, and they will almost always use them as a reason to say that, all right, well, because of them, this is why we basically need to enslave everybody and implement policies that are inevitably going to hurt everybody. But, it's okay because, again, it's their fault. And, this is why you got to give me this power. It is the oldest trick in the book. It's often repeated. But it's hard. It's one of those things. And that's why I find myself pondering on is why people eat this stuff up. And I think that's where, going back to the individual, it's all comes back, there. That's really what this is about. That is really, why we are at the point that, we're at when we talk about, statism in general. Hate to, sound like a broken record, but, we have to talk about the individuals, what, not only what they've done to get there, but what can the individuals do? Definitely people like myself, people like yourself, who recognize this setup as either an illegitimate setup, an immoral setup, or a situation that can be better. And I guess improve the standard of living that we all have. And again, it goes back to the individual, and that's my thing is not just talking about that, but let's also get to the solutions. And it's the oldest trick in the book that government has done that, but again, it's almost the oldest trick in the book that the individuals have fell for this. Why do we keep falling for that? So that's the question that I'm trying to ask, as opposed to why do okay, yeah, well, we can talk about all day long that it's been done. Why politicians are doing that, we can ask that question. But I think the question that I want to ask is, why do we keep falling for it? And what can we do to stop falling for it? Maybe I can do something that will improve, if maybe not my generation, maybe my kids' generation or my kids' generation to at least plant those seeds that we've talked about. And I think it all goes back to educating people and why I'm always so, loud about doing this with entertainment and doing this with any other arts. I encourage anybody. I really don't care where you're at. And I get a lot of crap for this as well, but not a lot. But to be fair, some people give me crap. But my thing is,
if you're not pissing some people off, you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm always talking about how liberty, and granted, I'm an anarchist. I like to consider myself an anarchist, because I don't want any government to exist. That's the end game. Really the only time, not the only time, but we start disagreeing and you start seeing, it's two different ways where you see the libertarians start, one person's over here, one person's over there. One being when we start talking about, okay, how we get there. That's when you start seeing, well, some people say that we should, starve the beast. Some people say we should participate, like Rothbard, we should participate. We could do that, but we should also participate in political action. And then you get, some people that, again, the other way, again, that being the first way, but the other way we start disagreeing is how far do we go? As someone like yourself, myself, I'm trying to bring it all the way down. I don't want the state to be there at all. But you got your anarchists who are more so, they think it's a necessary evil. And though I disagree, obviously, but being from a rational standpoint, and it ain't even really being practical. It's not even being practical. It's just from a rational standpoint. I recognize there's a difference between somebody like Ron Paul and somebody like Bernie Sanders. Who Ron Paul, he could technically be a minarchist. He can technically be a minarchist because, he was a politician. He was within government. He always said what his goals was with being in government. He wanted to use it as a vehicle to spread liberty and things like that. and I acknowledge that. So I don't care really. My thing, and it, going back to that, whether you do that, whether you do something like Ron Paul does, or you do something like I do, you're in music, do something like yourself, doing podcasts and giving platforms to other people that maybe share or at least our type of alignment, or whether it be being in entertainment. My guy, buddy, I'm always mentioning my buddy Seamus, who does Freedom Tunes.
Right.
He makes cartoons,
Yeah, awesome.
and that's his way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so many different ways to get to where we want to get. And I don't knock you for doing that. And I'm always encouraging people. Like, I think sometimes, and to be fair, and I had a buddy of mine, he actually had to have that conversation where I had to understand that there's a difference between, what it actually is going on and what can be presented on Facebook. Because, what's presented on Facebook sometimes, and I fell for it, I'm like, man, there's a lot of beef going on between a lot of libertarians. And then I got, my buddy was like, well, that's really just on Facebook. Because if you go look at guys like the Mises Institute, and deals like that, they have a lot of guys that, from an economic standpoint, they all pretty much agree that, they want freedom, obviously it's Austrian economics. But you have guys, some of those guys are minarchists, some of those guys are anarchists, some of those guys participate in the political process, some of those guys don't. They say we shouldn't. And it's like to see how those guys even work together as a cohesive unit, and they've spread so much knowledge. To me, that is not only fascinating, it's inspiring, for me. So that's why I don't spend, even if I disagree, I'm not saying we shouldn't have the conversations, but even if I disagree with somebody, whether it be where they're at or how they see something, I'm not going to let something like, all right, do you feel like we should vote or not? All right, you say yes, and I say no, and I'm going to be like, well, you the enemy. No, bro, like I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to go to that extreme to where I say you're the enemy, because we agree on everything else. The only thing that we disagree on is how do we bring about the stateless society. That's literally the only way. And that's really the only reason why a lot of anarchists participate, definitely handcaps, participate in the political action, because they're like, well, the election, I'm not saying this is my argument, but this is their argument. It's not an illegitimate where they say, well, the election is forced upon you, as in the outcome that is. So whether you vote or not, which me, I'm not voting, whether I vote or not, it's still going to be some fool that's going to win, and he's going to aggress upon me. So their argument is that, all right, well, we can at least utilize this system and try to, get to where we want to get, or we can just sit. But, again, I think there's a place for it all. I'm not knocking anybody, but I'm so about, not necessarily about unity and the fact that we got to agree, but unity in the fact that, we don't have to crap on each other. That's my thing. I'm always talking about we don't have to crap. Everybody has their own lane, and I really admire that. I've met so many different people, just within, I would say, even the last maybe 2 years, met so many people who have, are doing it's fun. It's funny to see how people are doing it their way, and they're trying to bring about, not necessarily even just bring about liberty, but educate people on liberty, and they're doing it. It's so many different ways that it's being done, and that's so fascinating to me, because I'm a musician, and I know guys that make cartoons, guys that are able to, something like doing like stuff like yourself. If I was doing what you do, I'm not good at that. I couldn't do that. That's not my thing. That is not my avenue. I cannot. I do radio and stuff like that, but as far as setting up a podcast like this and being able to execute it like you do, I can't do that, or if I can, it's not necessarily, it doesn't really come natural to me. I can force it, as I can do it, but again, it's not going to come out as good as somebody like yourself. So but that's your niche, that's your thing. So who am I to say, well, we should have, I agree that we should have more people doing other different things, but I'm not saying, who am I to say that yours is illegitimate, your way of doing it is wrong, or your way is completely ineffective, and compared to my way, because I'm a musician, I'm an entertainer, so again, I think there's different ways that we can bring about liberty, and I'm always encouraging people to do that. I know we kind of went off the rail of what we were talking about, but it's cool, because again, it's bringing up that conversation that I feel like it needs to be talked about, and when we talk about individuals and what we can do to better our situation, I feel like that's part of the conversation. We want to get there. We want to bring about, even in our case, we want to bring about a stateless society. But why is because we feel like people are born free, and that's we don't believe that it's right for people to have this monopolized use of force, monopolized violence, because we feel like it's wrong. You're aggressing upon peaceful people. We feel like that's wrong. So, it's always cool to see how people have their different ways of bringing about that. Not only that, but also teaching people, I guess how to get there, teaching people about it in general. Because, like I've said, people like myself, I didn't learn about it until college. I didn't know nothing about libertarianism until I hit college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some awesome points. Remind me of a quote by Jeffrey Tucker. He said that he's like, when somebody asks me, what's the best thing that I can do to, spread liberty and improve the world, he said, find what you're good at, what you're skilled at, and do that to the best of your ability.
Man,
that's it. That's how you make the world a better place. And exactly what you just said, the division of labor, right? Specialization. We all have our own niches and skills, right? Skill sets, unique skill sets. And that's beautiful, right? That's what makes capitalism, free market capitalism, so prosperous and successful, right? And exactly why socialism sucks. Because you cannot micromanage people's skill sets, right? You can't have a bureau or a government committee saying, you do that. No, it doesn't work. That falls completely on its face because you have no idea what people are skilled at. And if you are giving people the task to do things that they're not skilled at, you're wasting human resource, human capital. You're wasting their time, and it's the destruction of wealth is what it is basically. So the best way to grow a society and to make a society as prosperous is to have it as free as possible and allow people to do what they are naturally skilled at doing. And, that does not require any micromanaging whatsoever. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. No, that's absolutely beautiful. I mean, I think that's where we're at with it, and that's just, real talk. I really do feel like that's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing that, we all have our different niches. We all have things that we're good at, and, it took me even a while to figure out which route I wanted to go because I do a lot of different things, I do rap, even from a musical standpoint, just me being a rapper and me also being a metal vocalist, that in itself throws people off.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing so many different things. But it legit, that in itself is like almost analogous to me as a person. Like, what do I want to do? Because I do so many different things and I'm cool at so many different things. Or I think so many different things are cool, but, I had to find my avenue, and it really is funny how it took human interaction to find out what I was best at or what not only what my calling was, but what could what I guess being me, how was I going to affect the most people as possible? And it really took a kind of a lot of trial and error. I grew up a former gangbanger. I was a rapper. I saw where that got me. I grew up doing a lot of different things. I tried a lot of different things. Even from a musical standpoint, how can I do this? And I was in my past band, and the last song we dropped as a band. It was called The Capitalist. That was probably my first song, which I had ever wrote, has a music video and everything, that I ever wrote, and which kind of talked about that to the degree that I talked about it now. It was a cool song, but looking at like that, and looking how the reception that Statism does, or even my band in general does, because of our different elements and what we do, from a rap standpoint, from a singing standpoint, and from an instrumental standpoint, how the success and how it's reaching people a lot. Even I was in that band for a few years, and it never got as far as what Backwards got. It was cool. We did a little, but it never got. But again, it's that trial and error type thing. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, you talk about how socialism sucks and how bureaucrats, I had to come to that realization by human interaction, by seeing the feedback, and that's how everybody as individuals come about. Really, that's the that's the Austrian way of looking at things. How do people and why they want to get to that, spot. And I, was doing all those different things, and I'd been in several different bands, and I saw what was more effective, and this is more effective. And it had to take human interaction. And you can take you can take out the different kind of, keep the same theme and take out some of the variables. And the same thing is going to apply pretty much to everybody and almost everything they did. And in order to better their situation, they had to, come to some sort of, it was all human interaction. Where even if they had to bump their head a couple of times and figure out that what they were doing was either the wrong way or it was the least effective way. Some people had to find that way, or they did something and they saw that, well, this is successful. Maybe if I tweak it this way, if I tweak it that way, I saw that it didn't. It's just all human interaction. So how does it make any sense? And again, that's almost in every aspect of life. We kind of, look at it that way, and we know that's how we better our situation and advance. If the goal in life is to advance, become more prosperous, and just advance in general, we acknowledge that. But for whatever reason, some people think that the government can dictate that, by way of hiring some bureaucrats that we've never met. I will never meet these guys over there in Washington, D.C., but somehow they can dictate how the entire economy of 300 million something people can run. That's absolutely crazy. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Well, statism not supposed to make sense, but anyway.
That's true.
But yeah, it's so true, and I draw parallels with that point to so many things, including childhood. Like, that's the exact reason why government school fails, right? Because for 13 years, you're telling kids, this is what you need to know, right? Forget about what you want to do. Forget about what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, what you want to learn. No. 13 years, just do this. Memorize this. This is what you're going to need to know. And I saw one video, this little kid, he's like an Asian kid, it's like a TED Talk, and he said, he started off his talk with, I'm going to tell you guys something that you're not going to like, but you have to hear it. He's like, I'm going to tell you that every day that children go to school, they become less intelligent. Right? And I thought that was such a shocking statement for people to hear, because people think of the complete opposite. And it's so true. I mean, you ask anybody, and it's like, I guess you ask most adults and you say, okay, would you like to be forced to do things that somebody else wants you to do, or would you like the freedom to do what you want to do? Which do you think would lead to a better outcome in your life?
It's funny. It's funny if you break it down to a fundamental level. We say, everybody says yes, but the minute you start, I don't know why, but we start talking about government, people's basic fundamental logic and approach to human interaction just goes completely out the window. And then the government all of a sudden can, even though we say, all right, well, generally speaking, there's going to be a better outcome if the individuals that are, participating and are part of the interaction, if they do it consensual, if it's voluntary, we say generally, that's going to be a better outcome, as opposed to me holding person A holding a gun to person B and telling them to do something. But for whatever reason, when the government, literally, that's the very existence of government is that's what they do. They and it's monopolized. Again, they can use it without, if I hold a gun to you, I'm going to see a different consequence than that of the government, completely. So again, they have it monopolized. They can dictate the rules and use it without even, hell, they don't even have to follow the rules. If they make them, they don't even have to follow them, So it's crazy.
That's the point of being a ruler. You don't have to follow the rules.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even have to follow them. It's not. That's how you know. When I say that it's a monopoly on violence and a monopoly on use of force, people, they don't understand what I mean, and that's exactly what I mean. And it's like, again, it's there. We know it's there. It's use of force, but they can say when to use it. But not only that, they can also say, well, we ain't even gonna follow those rules. They gonna go around using force and whatever, and using violence, initiatory violence, on top of that in whatever way they want to. But again, I don't understand why we throw it out the window. Not we, but a lot of people, definitely hardcore statists, they throw it out the window because generally, if you do ask them, you have a sit down conversation, you say, Is it wrong to do this? Coerce people. Is it wrong to use force to get something that you want done? And it's I would argue that probably 98% of those people are going to say it is wrong. But when the government does it, or you acknowledge the fact that, well, that's exactly what government's existence is. Mental gymnastics start getting done, and people just start trying to legitimize why, or legitimize the state in general, or say that, all right, well, it's okay when they do it, but it doesn't make sense. It's logically inconsistent.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the idea, going back to the, the individual. It's like if individual people cannot be trusted to govern themselves, like you wrote this article recently, right? If man can't govern himself, man can't govern millions of people, right? So if on the basis that man can't govern himself, how will it change his nature to give him a uniform and a badge and say control these people? How will that change? Will that really improve his character and his nature? Will that make him more magnanimous?
Magical powers or something like that? It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. And that's what I was talking about in that article. It's like, if the argument is that, okay, well, without government, man is going to do bad things, which is always the argument. That's usually the argument for the state, is they say they advocate for a state because they feel as if, if it's not there, people will break us. It was a sin into chaos, and there'll be bad things. And that's because they think that man basically is bound to these laws that are on paper that are all of a sudden saying that this is wrong. And that's why people, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But if that is the logic, if the logic is that, you can't say you have to. I believe it was Mises that said it. If you reject laissez-faire, for the basically, I guess the idea that man is immoral, man is inevitably corrupt, you got to reject every government interaction. Right, you have to reject it. You have to. And to be logically consistent, you have to. That's why it's such a self-detonating argument when people suggest that without government there will be chaos and man. But they're saying that is because man is bad, and it's like inherently bad. They are going to do bad things. It's like, well, why does that change all of a sudden when you give them the monopoly of force and use of violence? Why is that all of a sudden? Does that change? No, it doesn't change. The same people. And for that reason, and because to be logically consistent, and if you want to be logically consistent, you have to acknowledge that. You have to. I would think you would fear government. You would fear government because, again, you're saying that man is going to do bad things, and now they're in this position in which they can use initiatory violence at will, and again, use coercion, extortion, do all of these things that other individuals cannot do. And by way of when I say cannot do, they don't suffer the same consequences as that of the state and members of the state when they do it. I would think you would fear government. I would think just that alone would say, man, if people are going to be bad, why the hell would I want them to have this initiatory use of violence? Why would I want them to be able to do that? So again, it's such a self-detonating argument.
Let me play devil's advocate real quick. So let's say you say that explanation, and then they come back and say, well, Eric, all right, I concede that you're right, that humans are evil, so putting them in power, other humans wouldn't make sense. But that's exactly why we have to make sure we elect the best of us, the most moral of us. What would you say to that?
What I would say to somebody like that is that you're not electing the best, and you're not electing the most moral people. I would argue that, again, this goes back to the point that people are bad. If they're saying that, again, if that's the argument, if you're saying that people are they're bad, they're going to do this, okay, they're going to get in this position, let's say the entity itself exists, government exists. Wouldn't you think that from a logical standpoint, if I'm going to do the most damage as an evil person and a moral person, wouldn't I find government itself to be attractive?
Right. Exactly.
Why wouldn't I find that to be attractive? Because this is an entity where if I was just doing it by myself, going around gunning people down, and shooting at them and doing bad stuff, that's going to be, I'm not going to be able, but if I get government, and history has shown us, if I get in a position of power, I mean, the numbers are just not even tripled. I mean, you're talking about by the millions, millionfold. I can do much more damage than I would as just a regular citizen, so to speak. So again, I would say that this entity is the most attractive. So the people that are running for office, they aren't the most moral people. I would argue that, and in some cases, they're not even like trying to, I guess, make that a secret. They're being pretty open about that. There are some people that are running on the platform, or I'm going to rob from you, I am going to steal from you, I'm going to do these immoral things. There are people actually open, and there are going to be others that are going to be smart, and they're going to say, well, I'm going to kind of mask. I think Bernie Sanders is a master to kind of butter it up, that I'm this, that I'm, honestly, all I am is just a tyrant. I'm authoritarian. But they don't think I'm authoritarian because I'm buttering it up. But that just goes to show how this entity it's going to attract those same evil people. So that's exactly what I would say if somebody came at me with that rebuttal, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, and what I would say is that power not only corrupts but also attracts the corruptible. so another quote I like is the good people do not want control over others. Good people do good things and serve their fellow man in voluntary trade. Good people don't want to be in positions of power because if you want to do good things, you don't need power. All right. If you want to do evil things, sure, power is a really nice and attractive thing. And I think also that what needs to be pointed out which is important, is that Hitler didn't kill many people. Mao didn't kill many people, right? Pol Pot didn't kill many people. It was the order followers that killed those people. And so these tyrants and sociopaths that go into power, they are fundamentally impotent, right? They're sterile. They're powerless without order followers, right? That's how they thrive. That's where the power originates. So it's so important to tell people or to explain, is what I like to do, is where does power originate? I like that question. Where does power originate, right? Some people say money.
Right.
You have a lot of money, I mean, you can't really invade countries just with a lot of money. You need a little bit more than that.
Right, exactly. That's not going to do it. Just a bunch of paper and coins and precious metals. That's not enough to just invade a country and kill millions of people. But no, that's actually a great point. And again, it goes back to the individuals. It's like you said. And I believe, I can't remember if it was Rockwell or it wasn't Block. It might have been Tom Woods when he was talking about. He was I guess he got pulled over by a cop, and he was saying
Tom Woods got pulled over by a cop.
Yeah, I believe it. I'm dead serious because he posted about this.
Oh my god!
I think he was saying he had got pulled over by a cop.
Oh shoot!
And he was saying that was saying, if I'm not mistaken, it was Woods, but he was saying that basically, he's talking about his altercation, conversation with the cop. He was basically like, man, all of these people, all of these different things. You got rapes, unsolved murders, all of this stuff going on, and you got pulled over for speeding or something like that, and you basically, nobody's on this roll. I'm not doing anything violent, and you're pulling me over. You're stopping me because of that. And Woods was like, I guess the guy said, well, I'm just basically doing my job. Is basically in a nutshell what he said. And Woods said, maybe you shouldn't. It's like, and it's like. It's like, you think of it like that. It's like it's going back to the individual. It's like what you just said. Like they're in a position, to where they can basically, I guess, dictate what needs to be done. But ultimately, the law enforcers have to. I would honestly say, maybe collectively, so to speak, they're the ones that are actually, doing the most damage.
Right.
Yeah. Because like you said, Hitler didn't kill. I mean, it's arguable. Right. Because granted, he might have dictated they did that, but it wasn't Hitler that was out there tossing folks in the ovens and stuff like that, or firing squad. It wasn't Hitler that was doing that. It was Hitlers and the Stalins and the Saddams ordering people to do that, and the law enforcers were the ones carrying that out, just doing their job. The last show we talked about that. I'm a Christian, and Christian anarchism, and we talk about what happened to Jesus and who killed Jesus. It was law enforcers. You know what I mean? It was law enforcers that nailed him to the cross. So by logic, like, it's funny how a lot of Christians are statists, and I'm like, it was if we talk about our Lord and Savior, who nailed him to the cross? The law enforcers. It was the law. They're just doing their job. They're just doing. A lot of these guys are such bootlickers to the state, and to be fair, a lot of conservatives are, and this is where they go. I guess so far, I guess I don't know what you want to say, far right or far left, where they go the opposite route where they should be going, I guess, and they get the idea of free markets and stuff like that. But they're also so protective of cops and the military and things. And I understand. I try to reason with them. I can understand that they feel as if the security aspect is admirable. And I feel like, yes, it is admirable if that was what they were doing. But that's not necessarily. That's what you think they're doing. But that's not necessarily what they're doing. They're not actually out there protecting people, or we're not being somebody that maybe advocates against that. We're not saying that. I guess we don't want security. Like when I talk about privatizing security, and I say police officers by the state shouldn't exist, they think, well, you don't want people to be protected. No, that's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying at all. But they do become such bootlickers to the state, these people, but they don't understand that, again, a lot of these conservatives who claim themselves to be Christian, it was them that, and it's funny that they always also, again, they get it and then they don't get it. How they talk about, the regressive left, and I agree with them. I know a lot of ANCAPs and a lot of anarchists agree that, we have to point to a demographic that's the most dangerous to liberty is probably the regressive left, because they're not only trying to implement and expand government, they're trying to silence people, free speech, and silence people who want to speak up against it. So you kind of have that double whammy. Not to say the other entities don't do that, but I'm saying they're prominent and they're doing that. But, they don't understand that who are the exact people. Let's say a leftist, hardcore leftist like a Hillary Clinton or like a Bernie Sanders does something that these said conservatives don't like. Who do they think are going to be enforcing these laws?
Yep. Yeah.
It's the same people that are licking those. I mean, they're licking them clean, man. Like they're those same people that they are always so supportive of are going to be those same folks that are going to be, if like we talk about Obamacare and how basically, damn, if you don't have health care, you get fined, and if you don't pay the fine, we know what's happening. But who is going to be enforcing that? If I say I'm not paying you a dime, who's going to be the people that are coming to confiscate my private property? It's going to be those law enforcers. It's going to be those law enforcers. So I wish that's my frustration with conservatives because they get it sometimes. They get it. They talk about, usually they're against like things like minimum wage, and they can understand like free market economics and stuff like that. And they're supposed to be for small government. And I would argue that that's worse than big government. Well, that's better than big government, excuse me. But they get it sometimes. But then they go on like things like that, and they're like they don't even understand that the people that they lick the boots dry. I mean, those are going to be the exact same people that are going to be enforcing these immoral laws, these unjust laws that again that either end up in our incarceration or in a lot of cases like going to end up in your death. It's legit. Like we say like taxation is theft, and we say it's a coercive act. This is what we're talking about. This death is not out. People think we're crazy when we say when we say like, damn, the government or the IRS or any kind of government entity, they're gonna utilize force if you don't pay tax. They think we're crazy when we're saying that. We're like, if you resist, it'll end up in your death, like as if that never happened. That has never happened. No, this is real. Like this is legit. This is what makes government. So the entity itself is immoral. The entity itself is bound for corruption. Going back to the point, because it's it's an act with they can use violence and initiatory violence, at will without suffering the same consequences as that of the individual.
Awesomely said. When you mentioned Jesus, I was thinking in my mind, like, imagine the Roman soldiers, I think it was, right? They're like nailing him to the cross, right? And they're like, I'm sorry, man, I'm just doing my job. I got kids to feed, my wife, I'm sorry.
Right, yeah, just as they're nailing him, because it's crucifying him. Yeah, man. Like, I'm sorry, man. My bad. Just doing my job. I'm just doing. You know what I mean? Like, how silly does that sound? It's again, but that's the same exact argument. And maybe I never really thought about it. Maybe in order to, and I've had way more success, I guess, planting those seeds, and they end up converting themselves from conservatives to libertarianism, and eventually maybe even anarcho-capitalism or anarchism. Maybe that's an approach that I need to try. Talking about, when they do say that whole, well, they're just doing their job and all of that. Maybe that's the part I need to bring. Well, let's think about Jesus when they was the Roman soldiers were nailing him to the cross. That's what they were doing.
Right.
So I guess what they were doing just wasn't wrong, even though they freaking nailed your savior, the person you praise,
Right.
day in, day out, and you claim is this holy entity. They're the one that nailed him to the cross, man. And it wasn't, the guys that, whether it be the actual, I guess, government itself, or the kings and all of that. It wasn't those guys that were doing that. Even all throughout the Bible, all of the acts in which, Jesus' existence was criminal. But you see that those guys, from his like King Herod, when he was basically ordering to slaughter Jesus, baby Jesus, and Mary and Joseph were running, they were fleeing, and all of that. It was him. He wasn't after on foot chasing them down or trying to find him. It was not the king doing that. It was the law enforcement. That's things that we have to take into consideration, and maybe that's the approach I need to try to those conservatives that do align with Christianity.
Yeah, yeah. The statism can be defined many ways, but one very vital way is the appeal to authority, and that's the essence of what being an order follower is, or a law enforcer is. It's like becoming it's forfeiting your humanity, right? It's removing your mind, becoming a tool for your superiors, for the politicians, mindlessly obeying without question. Because once you do question, you can no longer be an order follower. That's it. You're done. If you're not obeying, if you're not doing what is told or what is asked of you, you're done, right? So it does not allow for questioning or any kind of moral judgment, right? They don't want you to think. They don't want you to react, right? That's since ever since the Christmas truce in 1914, I think, in World War I, when the soldiers in Europe, they stopped fighting and they're celebrating Christmas and everything. Since then, the training for soldiers has become so deep-seated and reflexive, and just like murdering machines. Just like it's like they, when they give an order, it's like a lower motor neuron reflex. They don't want the stimulation to reach the brain. It just goes from the spinal cord back. That's what they want.
That's true. No, that's actually a perfect way to put it. That's actually I believe a perfect way to put it. That's what they want. They don't want you to think. They don't want you to think critically about any kind of issue. They don't want you to question it, because again, like you said, once you question it, even just once you think like, all right, well, is this even legitimate? Like, I think that was what happened with me when reading all those books, like the soul books, and approaching it from an economic standpoint. I'm like, why does this entity even have to be here? You know what I mean? Like that's what it was with me, and that's all it took. Even though they weren't even like Walter Williams, he's a libertarian. I guess you could say Thomas Sowell, he's more conservative libertarian, I guess. None of those guys are really anarchists, but again, all it took was them to say like, a little bit here, and I questioned it. And I questioned it like, all right, well, they're saying this, and they're saying that the government pretty much corrupts, so why the hell do we need it at all? You know what I mean? Why do we need it at all? But that's once you question it, I feel like once you get there, and it's a difference between questioning, I guess, because in a lot of cases, going back to maybe, I guess, the Lord of the Rings reference that a lot of people use when they approach government, is that, the ring itself, is bound for this type of corruption. So the ring needs to be destroyed, and so you don't question it in terms of, okay, who can get the ring and do right with it. You more so question, should the ring even exist? And that's what it did. And that's all I had to do. I kind of found out for myself, by trying to apply the logical consistency that I guess, approach to life in general, applying that to the government. Well, I don't like to be coerced. Well, why would I like to? Why does the government need to? I don't like to be extorted. Why does the government need to do it? No, just doing things like that,
Right.
and questioning if it should even exist. And I almost came to my own. I didn't almost. I mean, I would argue I did come to my own conclusion. Like, it was like, well, wait a minute. Well, maybe this entity doesn't even exist. But again, the government doesn't want that. The followers of not the followers, but the people that are the rulers, so to speak, they don't want that, because they know the minute that happens, their position is questioned. And when their position is questioned, it's like, all right, well, then you start talking about revolutions and stuff. They don't want that. They don't want you to start thinking, well, is this right or is this wrong? They don't want you to start doing that. And they've been fairly successful, and which is why statism is kind of like, it's like we're breeding statists, because they've been successful in kind of having that reflexive I guess, reaction, so to speak, where it's like, yeah, it's just got to be there. You know what I'm saying? And don't question it. It just got to be there. If it's not there, bad things will happen. It just got to be there. Don't question it. So I feel like if we do, obviously with the educational matter, but you plant those seeds, and those guys, I feel like people will start coming to their own conclusions if they simply start applying a logical consistency to how they interact with other human beings, and simply applying that to the government.
Yes. So I'll make one more point before we sign off, which is, also with the individual, saying that, it all comes down to the individual, always focus on the individual. Another aspect I'd like to focus on is the morality of it, right? So if you question anything that a police officer does, or let's say if I'm questioning, I'm talking to somebody and they're like, well, then, you're crazy, you don't think there should be any laws, there should be any police officers, there shouldn't be any government, you're crazy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's not about that, right? Anarchy to me is not about that. It's not about doing away with the laws, doing away with the police or the government. It's about assuming moral responsibility for your actions. That's it. And accountability, right? So always put yourself in that place. Let's say in the police officer. Do you feel it's a moral action to, to threaten with, by threat of violence, which is, what every law is, to pull somebody over for a broken taillight, and if they resist, to beat them, tase them, or kill them? Do you think that's a moral action? Is that justified? So always put yourself. That's what I tell people. Put yourself in that situation. So forget about how would the poor be fed, and how would we clothe the sick? How would we heal? How would we do all this? How would we build a road? Forget about all that. Just claim moral responsibility for your actions, and I'm a happy man.
Right. No, absolutely. No, I mean, that is that's very, very true. Because I feel like people will, when we talk about human interactions and we talk about the individual, I think, well, I guess the Austrian way of thinking is that, people will figure it out. People think it's a cop-out when you say let the market figure it out. And it's not really a cop-out. It's just really, what it is, But these entities don't have to exist, or not necessarily entities, I guess, type of actions and what they stand for. I think that's where even a lot of anarchists maybe focus maybe too much, I feel like, in my honest opinion, of, like you said, where they talk about the police, and they talk about, whether it be military and stuff like that. I think we kind of have to break it down, because I understand why people feel as if they need to exist. It's security.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I understand that.
Yeah.
So I try to always reiterate that I'm not against that. You know what I mean? Security. That's not. But pulling somebody over for there's no that on a road that nobody's on. You know what I mean? Road that nobody on, and they're going 2 miles over the speed limit, and you're gonna pull them over. And again, if they resist, you're going to threaten them. It's not even a threat. You're gonna initiate physical force, initiate physical violence,
right,
because they were going 2 miles over the speed limit. You know what I mean? Like, think about how silly that is. That's not security, and again, so I'm not against security, and I always try to reiterate that, because definitely me, maybe I'm more understanding because I come from like a military, like my grandfather, he died serving the freaking military. So I try my best not to like troop bash. I see people do that, and I don't think that's the most effective way to to I think that just pisses people off. It doesn't really accomplish, really, if the idea is to spread liberty and somebody wants to adopt it, if you're just straight up shitting on, what they, so I try to reason with them, say, all right, well, I understand that you feel as if they're protecting you. You feel like the military is protecting you. You feel like it's a good, no, well, that's not really what they're doing. They're bombing innocent men, women, and, start talking about stuff like that so they understand, like, no, I'm not against security, and I'm not advocating that nobody feels secure, or I'm not advocating that somebody else doesn't protect them. I'm not advocating, that's not what I'm wanting here. You know what I mean? Like, what we're talking about is that the police, that's different. The current police officers, they have delegated rights that other individuals they don't have of initiating violence. Honestly, whenever they seem fit, because a lot of them can do it and get off free. Again, with the victimless crimes, that are non-violent, they get to do that. You know what I mean? So I try to break that down to them. So it's not just about like you said, it's not necessarily about the police. It's more so about, all right, not only the entity, how they're funded, but you got to understand what they're doing and why me and you can't necessarily, do that, but they can do that. They can initiate violence. They can pull. So I can't be a freaking road pirate and pull people over for, having broke taillights. I can't do that. But and initiate violence on them if they resist. I can't do that. Or if I can, I'm going to suffer some damn consequences. But the government does that. The government foot soldiers do that. And it's like we accept it as something that has to happen. And I reject that notion. I know you reject that notion as something that it has to be there for us to be a civilized society. It's the price we pay for a civil. That's what they say. The price we pay for a civilized society. I was like, it's not really civilized to extort people and initiate violence on. There's nothing civilized about that at all.
It actually just reminded me of a cartoon where you see these aliens. They just visited Earth and then they're leaving. And then the one guy is telling his the other alien is like he's like confused. He's like they steal money from each other and then they pat themselves on the back and call us civilization. I don't get it.
But it's crazy. There's nothing civilized about that. It is absolutely nothing civilized about that. So I don't understand why all of a sudden it's like one of those things where, I'm the crazy person for saying that. And they're like, it's the price you pay for something. Like, do you not understand how silly you sound when you say that? It's the price we pay for extortion and coercion and initiatory violence and all of these things that the government does is somehow the price I had to pay for living amongst each other peacefully. That's absolutely crazy.
Rape is the price you pay for having children.
That's it. That's the price. That's the price. But that's the same argument. That's the same exact argument. But it goes back to the theme of this whole conversation. We talked about the individual. It's like for whatever reason we understand that and we think, well, that's silly. But for whatever reason, when the government does that, the logic there is just like, well, wait a minute. It doesn't apply. It doesn't make sense.
So before we go, I know I said that already, but I know you made a really awesome minimum wage video that went viral, and then you were on Fox. Was it last year in December, something like that?
Yeah.
Which was really cool to see you, on talking to these mainstream newscasters. But so yeah, go into a little bit about that video and what you're talking about, and what happened with there.
That video, it was a video I was talking about economics and. It was like that was around the time where Bernie Sanders was starting to rise, and I'm a young fella, and 26, so I'm a fairly young fella, you know what I mean? And a lot of people my age support guys like Bernie Sanders, and I would obviously, and because I'm a metal vocalist, that scene, I guess more of the core, metalcore and the post-hardcore scene, and I have a lot of these guys are my friends, so it's funny that I have. A big friend list on Facebook, where I have hardcore status of like almost every flavor because I grew up gang banging and I was, predominantly black household, a lot of blacks, most blacks, the overwhelming majority of black support statism, support the expansion of government. So I have those guys, and me being a metal vocalist, I have those guys, and I would see all of these, me being a young person, a millennial, all these guys are Bernie, most of these guys are Bernie and Hillary supporters. So I'm seeing all these guys advocate for not only just want to expand government, but they were also talking down on capitalism. So, and I would say the overwhelming majority of them don't even know what it is. And I was like, I'm sick and tired of this. So I made a video, and that was what I was talking about, economics and why people are, what is minimum wage and what is capitalism and why are you paid what you are paid, and how like market economies work and stuff like that. So I was talking about that in that video. But what I did, and I purposely did that, I just tried to talk about econ, not the political philosophy behind it, but just the economic, just the fundamentals behind it. Not whether it be from a libertarian perspective or a conservative perspective, or just straight up econ. You know what I mean? And it was funny how I would see people of a lot of like libertarians, anarchists that were like sharing that video around, and it ended up even getting the hands of like people like former Senator Allen West, and all these guys were sharing it, and that's why they reached out. Fox reached out to me. So, and again, that is, I thought that was cool, to do that, but more importantly, it was a platform because I gained a lot of exposure for that, and I made it to where they had to call me a libertarian. I wouldn't even go on the show if they would not refer to me as a libertarian. If they try to lump me in a conservative box, I would not have even done it. Wow. I would not have done it. But in bold letters, they talk about libertarian, talks about to destroy the minimum wage. That nice. To me is great. Screw the platform. We can argue about what Fox does and how they're conservatives, how you got a bunch of neocons. At the end of the day, they gave exposure to libertarianism and myself in general. So people can go look up Eric July. And they can say, who is the guy? Oh, he's a voluntarist, or he thinks voluntarism is cool, or he likes anarcho-capitalism. What's that? And I would gain, people message me if I saw your interview on Fox. Do you mind? Legit, I had to do you mind expanding on what you were talking about? So you got people that's wanting to learn, and these are people that I wouldn't have never reached had I not got that kind of exposure. But this is why I think that. I don't want to rant too much about it, but how I talk about, when I talk about being at least, again, practical isn't really the word, but there's a way. You don't have to necessarily compromise your beliefs, compromise your morals or principles or anything like that in order to reach out to these guys. You don't have to do that. I didn't have to do that. All I did was, make that video, and they gave me the platform. I just didn't crap on them. Had I maybe ended that video and said all conservatives suck, Fox wouldn't have had me on there. You know what I mean? Right. That means that's less people that I'm going to be influencing. Mm-hmm. So I don't have to, if they ask me a question, like they would ask me a question about endorsing the president, and I said on that show, I was talking when Tucker asked me about that, and I said, well, I'm not endorsing anybody. I said that straight off. I said, I'm not endorsing anybody, but if I had to choose from the guys that you have, I said this in 2012, I said Rand Paul is probably the best, is the guy that you have, that is the sucks the least of all of these authoritarians. And the same thing I would have said if I went on in 2012 and talked about Ron Paul. But I didn't have to compromise anything. I didn't have to say I was a conservative. I didn't have to front like I was a conservative or anything like that. All I did was approach it from an economic standpoint, and they gave me a platform, even though they knew I was a libertarian. It's the same thing when I go on the Blaze. They know I'm a libertarian. They know I'm an anarchist. But because I don't crap on them, and I try to I can get on a show and say, well, warmongering isn't really right. You know what I mean? Or I can get on a show and say, well, statism is wrong, and when we start talking about anarchism and stuff, I can go do stuff like that, and they give me a platform to expose, I guess, or get out there in ways that I obviously wouldn't have been able to do. I don't have, no matter what. I do not have the platform. None of us do have the platform that a Fox News has. You know what I mean? I could do one Fox News post, or not a post, or just one interview, and I'm going to get far more interaction than I would do any random music, not music video, but any random video that I do on just talking. You know what I mean? And again, my objective, I can't speak for everybody, but my objective is I truly want to spread liberty. I truly want to spread liberty. And I want people to adopt it. I want to plant those seeds. I want people to ask me. So, about this stuff. So it's cool to do interviews like that. It's cool to go on the Blaze and talk about things because people look me up. They find out who I am, and then they ask me. Well, I get so many messages from conservatives, former conservatives, that say, well, you introduced me to libertarianism. At first, I didn't know what it was. You introduced me to libertarianism, or libertarianism, minarchist libertarians. I didn't even know what anarcho-capitalism was. Man, thanks to you. Or they ask me simply, what is it? People are at least intrigued. And then I feel like, as I said in the beginning of the show, if I can just one person, if I can get them, they can see a video that I do and they can say, man, that was cool, or tell me more about it or want to learn about it, I feel like I've won, and that is my ultimate goal.
Awesome. Yeah, that was really awesome when I saw that. Yeah, you've made a lot of videos on Facebook, and I've been telling you to get a YouTube channel.
Yeah, you have. Yeah,
you gotta do that.
Yeah, I do, man. Like, no, seriously, I'm going, and I try to figure out ways how I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But I am, talking about that. I'm going to figure it out because I do have my YouTube channel that's already has like 27,000 subscribers.
Nice.
But that's on the music portion. I do a lot of vocal covers and stuff like that. Right. I do want to use that channel maybe, and that's what I can figure out how to do that, which I'm talking about my political commentary, and I'm also doing my covers and stuff like that. I can merge the two. So you're right, though. I do need to start uploading those videos to YouTube. You've been telling me that. You have been telling me that.
I mean, they're getting exposure anyway, just on Facebook, but yeah. So I was really excited to see you there on Fox and talking to him, and the way you said how we can make our message to be non-confrontational by focusing on economics, right? Because most people don't care about economics. Most people don't care about monetary policy. Most people don't even know what inflation, what quantitative easing, what the Mandrake mechanism is, what the Federal Reserve is. Most people don't know what this stuff is. And so they don't really have an opinion, and so I think that's where we come in, or what's fiat currency? What effect does that have? What is precious metals, right? So most people don't have an opinion on this stuff, and that's why economics is awesome. It's an emotionally neutral topic, right? It doesn't trigger people's emotions and their defenses and their barriers go up, right? And that's that you think you did a great job on Fox doing that. Just explaining your position without being confrontational. That's what I strive to do as well, because once you inflame the other person's anger, oh my God, it's so hard to get through to them after that. It's like they shut down and the conversation is basically over.
Yeah, and to touch on that, I mean, they honestly don't even want to hear it anymore.
Right.
And that was to be fair, that was an approach that I used to do. I'm not going to even lie. And I realized that, again, going back to the human interaction portion, I realized how ineffective that was. Maybe some people get it like that, but for the most part, if I look at it, if the tables are turned, I'm not. If you piss me off, and going out your way like to piss somebody off, there's a difference between saying something that maybe you feel like is non-confrontational and just literally seeking to piss somebody off. It's completely. Those are different things, and there's a difference between that, and I try to be as definitely if my goal is to go educate people and spread liberty, I'm not gonna get that far by trying to piss everybody off and make enemies of everybody, and I honestly don't want to do that, mainly because I've seen the success. I can definitely more so. I've had a couple of liberals that have talked to me, definitely amongst the metal community. Who I've had success with, maybe, I guess, planting that seed, a libertarian seed, that anarchism seed. But I would say I've been overwhelmingly more successful. And I'm not saying that I got to kiss their ass or anything like that, because I will refuse to do that. But like you said, economics is one of those things where they already somewhat understand. Mm-hmm. So you just kind of try to get them to apply the consistency. And you don't have to you don't even have to, like when we talk about coercive acts and extortion, all you have to do is just give fundamental definitions. You do not have to be confrontational with it at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, Awesome job with that. I think we can go on talking for a lot longer,
Yeah.
but really great conversation. Eric, thanks a lot. So just let everybody know that if they want to follow you or with the Statism, I know it's available on your YouTube channel, but where else can they find that?
Statism is the new song. Obviously, it features Craig Mabbitt of Escape the Fate. You can check that out. It's on iTunes now, Spotify. I mean, literally almost every major, I guess, musical distribution website or medium. You can see it. Tidal, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google. It's all there. Obviously, the YouTube. We have the actual music video. I encourage you all to check that out. Share it out if you can, just to get the message out there. But you know where we're at. Backwards is the band, BACKWORDZ, and Backwards Music is usually our handle for pretty much everything, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, all of that. You can find us at / Backwards Music, and you can find me at obviously Eric July. I'm the only person on earth, I believe, that's named Eric July. So all you gotta do is Google me. You're gonna find my mediums. I'm on everywhere. So I appreciate all the support. I appreciate you bringing me on. Again, anytime, man. Brother, man, you want to have me on, you want to have a chat, just hit me up. And again, I appreciate it all. I appreciate what you're doing. I cannot say enough. I love the fact that you're giving a platform for other guys like myself who are doing other different things and infiltrating other different mediums such as arts and entertainment. I appreciate you giving us that platform and to talk about us so we can more so in depth chat about what we actually believe and what we advocate for.
Yes, no problem. I really enjoy it. And for anybody who tries to or finds him on Facebook, don't try to friend request him because he is like to the max.
yeah, don't do that. I have a public Facebook page though, the Eric July Texas, Eric July TX. You can find me there. But yeah, my personal Facebook is to the brim, man. Don't even give it a shot.
If he accepts you, you are golden. He had to delete somebody to accept you. So you
exactly. So I must really like you.
That's a compliment.
Like that. Right, yeah, you're doing some very major if I do that.
Excellent. So if anybody wants to help me out, you can do so through Bitcoin, PayPal, or Patreon. Links are below. That's patreon.com/Peaceful Anarchism to help me out. $1 show is all I ask. If you find value in my content, please help me. I love interviewing fascinating people like Eric, and I will continue to do so, but monetary compensation is always appreciated, right? Human action responds to incentives, right? As Macy's is fondly fond to say. So thanks a lot. Really appreciate it for the conversation. So this is Peaceful Anarchism on the Voluntary Virtues Network and theseedsofliberty.com and theconsciousresistance.com. Wishing everyone have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.